where the mind goes, the body follows, is actually not very helpful when it comes to adopting behaviors that we want. We wait to be motivated, to know that we feel like doing something in order to know that it's time to go do that thing, which actually leads to a lot less action than we like. This sentiment is great when we're already moving, but not that great when we're getting started. So what do you do to get started then? Why you can't trust your feelings and how to override that, all coming up in this video. Hey, I'm Ivana. Welcome to my channel where I talk about how to apply the science of habits to design the life that you want. If you need some help figuring out how to be more actionable with change, you're in the right place. You can also find me on Instagram and TikTok if you want to digest this material in different ways. Or if you just want to see more of me, you can follow me on there. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel, like and comment on this video, and let's dive in. Let's think about something here. Perhaps you were going for a run and then your legs started hurting, or it's getting harder to breathe. You feel like quitting, but you tell yourself just a little bit more, and somehow you make it a little bit more. And then you tell yourself, okay, just keep going, you can do this. And even though your body is hurting, it's somehow able to do a little bit more. We have all had an experience like this. It may not have been running for you, it might have just been running on very little sleep, something like that. On a regular day, if you had the option to just stay in bed and not go anywhere, you would have taken that opportunity in a heartbeat on those days when you're exhausted. But today was not that day. You had to get up. And when you thought, like, I'm already struggling just to get up out of bed on this day, how am I supposed to make it through this entire day? You somehow surprise yourself by actually pulling through. I mean, it wasn't pretty, but it got done. So we see how the sentiment is proven right over and over. It's like our bodies can just keep going somehow, much further past the point where we thought it would be able to. So of course we think if we believe it, we can achieve it. Where the mind goes, the body follows. And so we spend more of our time focusing on how to get our mind to do what we want to do, when actually isn't as helpful as we think. There are 5 states that our brain deals with. There's sensation, there's perception, there's thought, emotion, and action. Sensation is all the information that our 5 senses are receiving from the world around us: sight, smell, taste, touch, and sound. We are constantly receiving information, but whether or not we're paying attention to it, it's still happening. Perception is what we're actually focusing on. You could be sitting in a room and have music playing in the background the whole time while you're working on something. And because you're completely distracted, you're tuning it out. Then you take a little bit of a break, you sit back, and all of a sudden you start focusing on this music that's in the background. Oh yeah, that song is playing. Sensation is the fact that music was there this whole time. The information was available for you to receive the entire time while you were in that room, whether you paid attention to it or not. When you focused on what you were listening to, that was perception. This goes for all things, temperature going up, you realizing that it's warm and then taking your sweater off. Thought is the next one. It's fairly self-explanatory, all the different things which flow through our heads, which actually is an astoundingly huge amount. If you've ever tried being still and not thinking about something, you soon realize how hard it is to actually stop the thoughts and really how many we really have. It's an all-day event. Emotions is how we interpret our thoughts and other sensations. And the last one is action. Action is what we wind up doing, the physical things. So all these exist together and interact with each other at all times. The one that is of particular interest for our conversation today is emotion and action. So as we said, where the mind goes, the body follows, which points us to the emotions where they are, and that leads to action. Your emotions are saying, I want to do this, I can do this, keep going. You are feeling things, you're energized mentally for this. The problem is that our emotions can be very strong and very overpowering, especially to our actions. Our actions don't actually follow our emotions in the way that we want them to follow. If we don't feel like doing something, our body isn't just going to get up without us not wanting to do it. But our mood does follow our action. We can start an action, not be in the mood for it, because maybe, we're just going through the motions of something, but the mood does follow suit after that. So example, if you're upset, you're fuming over like a bill notification or something, you're surprised how much it was, and here it is, it's just taken over your day. Your thoughts are upset, you're emotional about it. You know that you should relax, but just because you know doesn't mean that you're going to relax. When in the history of someone being upset, telling them to relax and not be upset, had it actually worked and calmed them down? If anything, it actually just makes them more upset. But how can actions help us in this case? If we do something physical to put ourselves through the motions that physically lead us to calm down, our emotions will follow. Something like taking deep breaths. A deep breath forces your body to start relaxing, which is why you're always suggested to just breathe whenever you're upset. It lets your action start overriding those emotions. Even if you're not trying to calm yourself down, your mood will start to follow those physical actions. I learned about this on a podcast called Huberman Lab, which is ran by Dr. Andrew Huberman, who is a neuroscientist at Stanford. It's a very sciencey and very long podcast, but if you're interested, definitely go check that out. So that's where that information came from. The reason this bit of information stuck out to me is because we often let our emotions decide what actions we will take. Do I feel like doing this? Do I want to do this? And if the answer is no, which it tends to be when things are harder or make us uncomfortable, we don't wind up doing anything. So waiting to feel like doing something is actually not the right approach. It's getting into action first, despite how it feels, because your mood will actually follow once you're in motion. This isn't a new thing, we have all experienced this before, we just may not have been aware that that's what it actually was. So think of an event that you were invited to, and at the time that you were invited, you're like, this is a great idea, and you said yes, that you're gonna come. But now as this thing is getting closer, you kind of don't feel like going anymore, and if you could bail, you totally would. But you also don't have a good enough reason at this point, and sometimes someone's counting on you to show up, so you're like, fine, and you drag yourself to this thing. But lo and behold, once you get there, you wind up having a good time. Why? Because you put yourself through the motions of going, socializing, whatever it is that you were going to be doing there, and it starts to feel a lot better, and eventually you actually get excited. In the case of this event, your sense of responsibility that you had towards somebody else was the reason that you went, your actions went even though you didn't really feel like doing it. If it had been up to you, you wouldn't have gone. So when we're making emotional decisions like that, do I feel like doing this or not, the best way to get motivated is just to get moving. By reducing the barriers to action, it makes it a lot easier for us to get moving without having to fight yourself every single time. Or even something more commonly occurring, not feeling like going to work. I think many of us don't necessarily get excited about getting ourselves to work. Some of us dread it completely. We complain on our way to work, we complain while we're at work, but the worst part is just getting there and getting rolling. Once you're in the flow, you kind of just fall into your work mood and you do your work and the time kind of flies by. If it was up to your mood to decide whether or not you're going to go to work, I think most of us would have lost our job in that first week. So how can we apply this to make behavior change? We can make this action small and as simple as possible so we don't have too much to feel about. Do something for 1 or 2 minutes and see how it feels. Get a few reps in and see how you feel after that. Chances are once you start rolling, it'll be a lot easier to just keep going and your mood will actually catch up with you. The more overwhelming things seem like, the more likely we are going to get emotional over it. Now, adopting some changes and habits shouldn't feel like you're pulling teeth every single time that you're doing it. If it does feel like that, then perhaps you need to reassess why you're putting yourself through that mess in the first place. If the struggle is sometimes, then keep this in mind the next time you find yourself debating whether or not you should be looking for an exit. Your mood will follow your action. You just need to get moving first. Another thing to keep in mind is that the struggle isn't going to be there forever. It's only there for those first few times because we're building things up to be way bigger than they need to be. The being invited to the party thing, I have been there more than once. But I went every single time And now I know when that feeling starts to pop up, like, ugh, I just rather not go. I don't even negotiate with myself. I get ready and I go. Why? Because I know once I get there, I will change my mind and I will be so happy that I went. So you can't trust those feelings all the time. So after you put yourself through the motions once or twice, you realize that you actually tend to be a lot more in the mood to do the things that you didn't think you'd be in the mood for in the future, because it winds up feeling fairly good. So when you're finding yourself wanting to do certain behaviors, but you're repeatedly struggling to do it, or you don't feel like doing it most of the time, explore what is making this behavior so hard. Then break it down. Do you have an example of where your mood followed your action? Let me know in the comments. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, leave me comments in the bottom, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel. You can also find me on Instagram and TikTok, and I will see you next time.